Hello and welcome to the Edge of Eternities limited set review. In this video, I'll be discussing the multicolor cards and how good I think they're going to be. In limited, with a focus primarily on draft. If you haven't been to one of my set reviews before, I use a 5-tier system to evaluate cards. The tiers are loosely based on when you would expect to take the cards in a pack on average, with tier 1 being the best and tier 5 being the worst. There's a little bit of a description on the screen now about what the tiers mean. If you like limited, if you like card evaluations, if you like me rambling about sets, please feel free to subscribe and stay informed. Stay informed of the ever increasing number of limited sets every year. With that out of the way, let's begin with Alpharel Dreaming Acolyte. Also, pronunciation not my strength, but we're just going to say it's not going to be nearly as bad as Final Fantasy, where I hadn't played any of the games, so I didn't know how to say anything. One blue black for 2/3. When it enters, draw 2 cards. Then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. During your turn, it has Death Touch. So yeah, this is just a nice value 3-drop. In this set, as far as I can tell, there's only one like signpost for each color, which has not been common in the Play Booster era. They've moved mostly to doing 2. I kind of, for aesthetics reasons, like when there's one, but I actually like acknowledge that the gameplay of the sets on average has been better since there's been 2. It generally leaves them more room for like making them a little bit like when you only have one signpost, you kind of have to cram everything, like all the stuff you want to do for that archetype into one card. Whereas if you have 2, you can spread stuff out a little bit and have like different types of decks. Um, there are a number of artifacts in this set, like quite a good number. There's stations, there's just other like random artifacts in blue and black. You can also just Faithless Looting attached to your 3-drop with Death Touch on your turn. Just a solid card, not super exciting. I mean, I could see a pack where I'd first pick this. It's not gonna happen frequently. I could see it happening, but the fact that this is not an artifact and cares about artifacts, always attention. But I think this is just going to be a solid 3-drop, and you'll be happy to take it. I could even argue I should move it down because of the multicolor. Like, am I really realistically taking this like picks 2 through 3, 2 through 5? Yeah, I'd be happier with it in like pick 4. I think. Yeah, I mean, the Death Touch only being active on your turn means it doesn't block super well. Actually, yeah, you know what? But no, but if it ever draws you a card, you're just thrilled, right? Yeah, if it ever draws you a card. Yeah, you know what? I am going to move it down, though. I am. I am moving it down. By my own rules, I'm not really that excited about taking this early, so I'm going to move it down to tier 3, where it's sort of more of a mid-pack pickup than an early pack pickup. Yeah. On to Biomechan Engineer. Green blue for 2/2. When it enters, create a land or token. And you pay 8 colorless to draw 2 cards and create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. I mean, this is kind of a beast. Now, the 8 mana ability is very, very rarely going to come up. But the thing is, it is worth doing. Like, 8 mana for that effect, pretty good, honestly. Like, you're not. Like, you're overpaying by, like, 4 mana. No, you're overpaying by, like, only 3 mana. Like, 5 mana draw 2, make it 2/2 is, like, kind of about what the rate would be. If this cost 4, it would be insane. So, 8, you're paying, like, 1.7 ish of what you would have to pay, but you're getting a lander that helps you activate all your abilities and stuff. I don't know. I think this is kind of a house. Like, yes, like you're not going to be super happy about trading it off early because of how good this ability is in the late game, but you will just do it. But yeah, making the lander token is really relevant, and I think this is going to be a very good signpost. Like, I do think it's better than this one, right? Like, this I think is better than this. Biotech Specialist. Similar. Green red for a 1/3. When it enters, you create a lander token. Oh, this is also rare, though. When you sacrifice an artifact, it deals 2 damage to target opponent. So I actually think this is like maybe worse than the last card. Not that really they need to be compared because they're different rarities and different color pairs. But 2-drop that makes a lander token is just good. I don't think there are any 1-drops that make landers in the set. If there were, they would. Actually, that's probably not true. I think there is one. No, there's the green. The green spell does it, but I don't think there's a creature that does it because obviously that would be the nuts. That would just be the Raven Inspector again. Actually, maybe there is one then. I don't know. I should actually have done my research before just saying this, but We don't do that here. We just kind of say stuff and then hope that we're right. So this, like, the 2-mana 1/3 is not great, but it makes a lander token. That's already good by itself. And then it also starts paying your opponent for 2 every time you sack an artifact, which happens. Like, red green makes a lot of lander tokens. There's just a lot of them in the color pair. So you would expect to get, you know, at least 1 or 2 pings off of this. And if you get 1 or 2 hits to your opponent in the face with this thing, you're pretty happy. So I think this is just a good card. Cosmo Goyf. Black green for a star 1 plus star. This creature's power is equal to the number of cards you own in exile, and its toughness is equal to that number plus 1. So you need a lot of help for this. You can warp, you can do other things. There's other exile stuff. I think this is bad. It is just stats. Tarmogoyf itself is like not that good in regular limited. It's okay, but it's not even like the best. Like these Lorgoyfs tend to be too difficult to enable in limited for the most part. This one is a little easier because of warp, but then if you want to cast your warp card, you're making this smaller. Most of the time on turn 2, this is a 0/1, which is kind of unacceptable. And it just takes a long time to get that many warp things in exile. Like, you just need to do a lot of nothing to have that enabled. And obviously there's other stuff that exiles, but it's just not... It just takes way too long to be decent, I think. I could even... Honestly, I should just move this to tier 5. I've never... Like, I don't think this is, like, playable at all. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that. One of the things I am trying to do in this set review, and based off the last time, is just, you know, have more takes. You know, have takes about things, right? Um, we continue on to Diadrine Synthesis Amalgam X green white for a 0/1 with trample. Enters with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. When you attack, you may remove a +1/+1 counter from each of 2 creatures you control. If you do, draw a card and create a 2/2 robot. So a couple of things to note here. If you do play this on turn 2, it's a 2/3, so that's something to note. It's not phrased how these X spells typically are phrased, because usually they, you know, usually they have you pay the X and that's how many counters it gets. This one you get the number of mana, so it's actually better. Also, you don't it doesn't have to attack, and the counters can be removed from it, which means that you can play this on whatever turn 5, turn 6, attack with a creature. If you have, you know, if you have like a 2/2 flyer or something, and then you attack with that, and you just remove a counter from this and a counter from another creature, you draw a card and make a 2/2. That's pretty good. Just the fact that you have flexible 2-drop that grows with the game is already like a really solid thing to have. So this is a very strong card. Very happy to pick it highly. It is multicolored, so again, I have a hard time putting multicolor cards in tier 1 in general because of the fact that you just, when you take them early, you're restricting your draft, but this is one that I would be relatively happy to take highly. Genomorph Imago. Blue-green for a 1/3 with flying. Whenever a land you control enters, target creature has base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. If you control 6 or more lands, that creature has base power and toughness 6/6 until end of turn instead. So it attacks as a 3/3 flyer, but does not block as a 3/3 flyer. You have to block sometimes, so that's why it's not in tier 1. It's just another solid 2-drop that sort of, you know, you hit your 6th land, then this thing just attacks as a 6/6 flyer in the air. That's kind of insane. How often do I think that's actually going to happen? Not that often, but then it's eating a removal spell, and you probably got in 1 or 2 attacks as a 3/3 flyer for 2. Seems perfectly solid to me. Hyla Ascendant Cadet. 2 green, white for a 3/3. When it enters or attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever one or more creatures you control with the +1/+1 counter on them deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So you can only draw 1 card per turn. Yeah, this is not great. I probably could even move it lower. The mana requirement is difficult, especially because it's double white and not double green. It's just kind of like all the things you don't really want your signpost to be. Like, you have 1 signpost in the set and it's 5 mana. Yeah, I'm gonna... The thing is, like, It does come down. It has an ETB. It enables an attack. The attack is probably good. Your opponent may have to chump, so you don't draw a card. And that's valuable. Like, that's a valuable set of things to be doing. But where am I actually going to pick this in the draft? Not till, like, pick 6? Maybe closer to pick 7? And that is sort of squarely in the tier 3 range. So maybe I leave it there. It's not going to win that much. It's going to win less than 50%, 55%, I think. Unless green white's like insanely good, which it won't be because this is its only signpost. Yeah, I'm happy to I think move this down. It's just so hard to take when there's one signpost and a color pair. You're taking a 5 mana signpost. Like that's just it's so hard to take that early. So I don't think the card's necessarily bad or like you would cut it from green white decks, but I just think of never drafting this that high. Onwards to Infinite Guideline Station, Wooburg for a spacecraft. It has. I don't know how I'm gonna read the. Okay, when it enters, create a tap 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each multicolored permanent you control. So you get at least one because this is one. It has station. It's a spacecraft, so it has station. It has flying. It's a 7/15, and whenever it attacks, draw a card for each multicolored permanent you control, and that costs 12 counters. So it has to get 12 counters on it, for it to become a creature. And then it's just as a creature forever, so you don't have to keep doing anything with it. But this is really slow. 12 is pretty prohibitive. It's going to take you 3 turns to do that in most spots, and even when you do, like, you're just really not going to be able to do this. Like, the mana, the lander tokens, are they something? They are. They help. Like, you can do that, but lander tokens don't fix a 5-color mana base that well because 5-color mana bases don't love running all 5 different types of basics. They usually will, but it's not as smooth as it sometimes reads. I also think that you're just not going to have that many multicolored permanents in play. As I mentioned, there's not that many signpost uncommons. So what multicolored permanents are you going to be having? There's just not that many. So I mean, this by itself is fine, but yeah, the casting it piece and then it just kind of not doing any enough and then dying is also a problem. There's tons of removal for spacecrafts in the set, so it's like even if it survives, like it has to survive and all that. Interceptor Mechan. 2 black, red, 2/2 flying. When it enters, return target artifact or creature card from your graveyard to your hand. It has Void at the beginning of your end step if a non-land permanent left the battlefield at this turn or a spell was warped this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So, actually, there are a lot of game states where this is going to be a 4-mana 3/3 flyer because your opponent blocks because they like have to. I mean, this is the type of card that makes you just not block. It's a gameplay leak that I would say that I have, where I overblock a bit. I definitely overblock in limited. It was very heavily rewarded in Final Fantasy, but I think we're headed to like with a Void existing, blocking is really bad against red black decks because if you block and then this is a 4-mana 3/3 flyer, like that's just a nightmare. And yeah, so I mean this is just it's Gravedigger with upside. Maybe I could even move it up to tier 1. It's the nuts, like it's insanely good. 4-mana 2/2 flying, draw a card. How good is that? This is probably better than that. It has types. It doesn't draw. The drawing a card is better, but like I'm saying, like if it loses the void text and you replace all of the text on the bottom with just draw a card instead of the text that's there, it's really close. 3-mana 2/1 flying draw a card is the nuts. We've had that many times, and or a couple of times, and it's been excellent both times. This is worse than that, but the void effect. It doesn't have to be your permanent, is the thing. If it was only your permanent, I would be like kind of not that excited, but it's any permanent. And it's for free, like it's growing for free. I'm gonna leave it in tier 2, but you could make the argument it should be tier 1, and I'm wrong, and that's okay with me. Dude. Ulthros. Oh god. Ulthros Elite. One blue, red for a 1/3 with flying. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So we had this in LCI with the 2/2 that was a pirate, but I think it triggered on pirates or artifacts. No, that's not true. That's just not. No, it put a counter on a pirate, but it triggered on artifacts. That's what happened. The thing that's different about this is that this costs 3 and that costs 2. It actually has the same number of stats. That format also had map tokens. This format has lander tokens. Lander tokens are on fewer things than map tokens are. I'm talking this down a lot, but I might actually move it back up. I don't know. The fact that this is 3, so like 2 mana for that effect is so much better than 3. Because your opponent having to spend their 4 mana removal spell on your 2-drop is like so much worse for them than if they have to spend it on their 3-drop. Like this takes longer to get going in the game. You can't like run away with it as easily. It's not that much harder to remove. It does like have the same potential though of just like come down and do stuff. It is also not an artifact though. It's another one of those things like I care about artifacts, but I'm not an artifact. So I'm gonna leave it in tier 3, and we'll see how it is. I'm a little one of the things looking through some of the cards is I was like, I don't know if I feel about the artifact stuff. Is it too trinkety? Is it too whatever? We'll see. We'll see how good the artifact stuff is. I'm a little down on it for now. Maybe that will change. Mutinous Massacre. 3 black, black, red, red for a sorcery. Choose odd or even. Destroy each creature with the mana value of the chosen quality. Then gain control of all creatures until end of turn. Untap them. They gain haste until end of turn. So this is really, really weird, but it kind of is like a wrath that also deals your opponent like 10. Like you just are going to hit your opponent for like 10 damage with this and then kill them. And like, yeah, it's a 7-drop. Like the first time I read this, I thought it was really bad, but then I was like, no, wait, like this just ends the game most of the time. If you're in a spot where you're so far ahead that this doesn't do anything, like you don't care. And if you're behind, you just cast this. And if you don't have lethal, you just kill, like 5 of their creatures, or like 5's a lot, maybe like 3 of their creatures, and get a couple of attacks in, and then you've flipped the game to where you're now the one who's attacking. It does destroy your stuff, so there's that. But I mean, there's just a lot of like ways you can make this work, right? There's just a lot of ways you can engineer this to be good for you. So I think this is good, even though I do kind of hate the style of effect usually. Pinnacle Emissary. 1 blue red for a 3/3. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless drone artifact creature token with flying, and this token can only be blocked creatures with flying. Speaking today. The speaking today has been bad. So it has warp for a blue red hybrid, which is really nice actually. This plus the blue red signpost is actually insane, right? Like you just play this, and then on like turn, like you play the blue red signpost. Turn 4, you go warp this into play an artifact, and then turn 5 you like play this, play a 2-drop artifact. You've hit like 16 triggers and you've won the game. This one is an artifact that cares about artifacts. So this is an artifact, which is great. And like, am I so low on the artifact stuff that I should have this here? I don't think so. I should probably move it up. How many artifacts do you need in your deck for this to be like a tier 1 card? Like 10, right? Probably even more than that. Because for it to be a tier 1 card, the warp has to do something, which it probably just will. And then the back half of it. I guess it just stays in play, and then they just have to kill it. I'll bump it. Yeah, we'll move it up. We'll move it up. There is enough going. I think that this is pretty much insane, right? Because the thing is, it's not like yes, the warp only works for 1 turn, but the second half of it just they have to kill it, or they just are gonna lose because making 1/1s with flying is insane. Ragost Deft Gastronaut. Green white, or not green white, red white for a 2/2. Artifacts you control are foods in addition to their types and have pay 2 to sacrifice it and gain 3 life. You can pay 1 and tap it to sacrifice the food. It deals 3 damage each opponent. At the beginning of each end step, if you've gained life this turn, untap it. This is pretty medium. Like, it doesn't actually really like do anything. It doesn't like make more artifacts for you. It just kind of turns your artifacts that already exist into stuff. I actually maybe should move this down because it's multicolored. Turning your stuff into foods is fine, but like the burning your opponent out plan is not very good. I guess it if you gain life, there's not that much life gain to like untap it and do like the station thing. Yeah, this is too high. As much as we are a lobster respecter on this show here, the lobster here, I just think this is too much. Like I just don't like what are you actually hoping to do with this? Like I don't think this is. Yeah, I'm not. I'm off it. Sami ships engineer 2 red white for a 2/4. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more tapped creatures, create a 2/2 tapped colorless robot artifact creature token. So there's a lot of this. Like red white's whole thing is that it cares about making tapped stuff, and the stations really help with that because if you don't have good attacks, then you're not gonna have 2 tapped things. It's pretty rare that you're going to have 2 tapped things without the stations because of how difficult it's going to be to have profitable attacks early game. It's not impossible, but usually in the game of limited, your opponent, in this set, 2 drops are going to be getting fired off left and right. Wizards has brought back the powerful 2 drops, at least at uncommon, specifically in white. I think there's some in other colors as well, but those are going to be eating removal spells. So this, I think, I mean, it's really really bad if it doesn't work. I'm giving it a lot of credit that this is like not impossible to do because this is really bad when it does nothing, and it does like nothing frequently. But I do think because it counts itself and because there are stations that cost 3 or like they're not stations, they're spaceships that cost 3. There are ways to trigger this. I do think it's a threat. Your opponent does have to respect it, but it's it's like it needs considerable help, and I don't think I would be. I'm not gonna. I don't think I would ever first pick this. Like I just can't imagine ever first picking this card, unless the deck's just the nuts, which could happen. Sami Wildcat Captain, 4 red white for a 4/4 with double strike and vigilance. Spells you can cast have affinity for artifacts. That does not include this, by the way. So 6 mana 4/4 double strike vigilance. I put this in tier 5, which is kind of aggressive, but it's like a little bit based as well. Because 6 mana 5/4 double strike vigilance is just not like double strike on your 6/6 or on your 6 mana card. Basically, is just like not text that matters anymore. Like you would rather this just be an 8/8 than have double strike because it gets chumped just as easily, but the burn removal spells kill it. So giving your spells a bit of affinity for artifacts in red white, I just don't even think matters at all. So like, I just I don't think this is good. I would be shocked if this is good. Yes, it has vigilance. I don't know. Like your opponent just like, you just play this and your opponent just kills it every time. Like it just dies. It just dies to everything. It dies to even the 3 mana red removal spell. Like it just does nothing. It does nothing. Seed Ship Brood Tender. Green white or green black for a 2/3. When it enters, you mill 3 cards, and you can pay 3 green black to sacrifice it, return target creature or spacecraft card from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. Just a nice 2 drop. Very strong, very solid. Um, just a 2/3 for 2 that mills 3 is just a good rate. And it's a threat to reanimate something really big on turn 5, which you don't really want to sacrifice your 2 drop to do, but sometimes you're going to do it and be pretty happy about it. Like when you want to do this, you're going to be happy. This is a different brood herd engine from uh whatever it's called, Ether Drift. I think it is probably better because it is a creature that allows you to do things, but it is also a creature that doesn't surveil every turn and can get removed. But if it eats a removal spell, you're really that sad. Probably not. It's a good blocker. I don't know. Just seems like a strong 2. Singularity Rupture. 3 blue, black, black. Sorcery. Destroy all creatures, then any number of target players each mill half their library rounded down. This looks horrible. 6 mana Wrath is not very good. In Limited, you just don't really want to pay 6 mana for a Wrath. You can choose to mill half of your library. That's kind of it. I don't milling your opponent for half their deck is not good. It's just not good. Like you mill them for 10, so what? Like or I guess you're really milling them for 12. They're still gonna have 10 cards left in their deck. That's plenty. 6 mana Wraths that are double pipped are not particularly strong. It doesn't even destroy like spacecraft or spaceships. So like if your opponent has those in play and they haven't made them creatures yet, actually I don't. We'll check that in a minute. Like you know what I mean? It just doesn't. This is just a bad Wrath. I'm already somebody who's very low on Wraths. If you do not know me, I am sort of an anti-Wrath guy. I don't generally like them very much. Space-time anomaly. 2 blue-white sorcery. Target player mills cards equal to your life total. This is what we call a lose more card. It is a card that when you are losing, you lose even more when you have it. It's like the opposite of a win more card. Because even when you're winning, but this is not a win more card, because if you're winning, you don't actually care that you're milling your opponent because you're already ahead. And if you're losing even harder because you can't cast the spell. It's very difficult to design a card that, well, it's not that difficult, but we don't see that many cards that are lose more cards, that are cards that actually they aren't even good when you're winning. They're only good when you're like tied and neither of you or your opponent can win the game. Yeah, it's a disaster. Obviously, if you can mill your opponent for 20 cards and like build a deck around doing that, it's cool and fun and like you can try to do it. I don't know if there's any. I don't believe there's any ways to recur this. I'm sure there's something. There's usually something you can do to recur it. Um, it's gonna be tough though, because mill for 20. Generally, you only get through 15-ish cards in your deck, and also you're not gonna be at 20 if you're casting this card. I'm sorry. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. Like, there's not that much life gain, and you're gonna be on the back foot a lot. Like if you're at 15, all of a sudden this goes from like mill 20 and maybe you have a chance to actually mill them to mill 4 and then you do nothing and lose. So this is pretty bad. Station Monitor, on the other hand, blue-white for a 2/2, and you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 drone artifact creature token with flying. It can only block creatures with flying. Yeah, I mean, this is just the nuts. Because Warp exists. If Warp didn't exist, we've seen this effect before and it's kind of but it's still decent. With Warp in the set, this card's just going to be unbelievable. You probably don't want to play this on 2 very frequently, but on turn 4 you could play this plus your Warp card for 2, and then you've Warped, and you're just doing everything. You're just doing everything, and this to me just seems like a very strong signpost uncommon. Not a lot to say. Sir Vondum. Sunstar Exemplar. White black for a 2/2 with Vigilance Menace. Whenever another creature you control dies or is put into exile, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and you gain 1 life. When it dies or is put into exile with power 4 or greater, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. So, 2 mana 2/2 Vigilance Menace is pretty okay by itself. There is sacrificey stuff going on in black. I'm probably too high on this. I should probably move it back down. But if you get its power to 4, you know, you gain 1 life. I mean, there's only creatures you control. We just had this from, we literally just had this, basically, like, the 2/2 in Final Fantasy, which was really a tier 3 card. So I should probably put this in tier 3. Like, it is a 2-drop that's fine and good, but do you really care? I don't really care. Sir Vondum, Lucent, I don't know. 2 white, black, black. Why? Okay, I'm about to have a rant, but we'll read through the card first. 4/4 Death Touch Lifelink. Okay. Whenever it enters or attacks other creatures you control, get +1/+0 and gain Death Touch until end of turn. I mean, I don't mind this as like a 5-drop, but obviously it's a 5-drop. You know, that's still pipped. Both of the white there are 2 white signposts that are double pipped, and there's no other ones. Like, what's going on with this? this card is not strong enough that it needs to be double pipped. I just don't think anybody's actually splashing this. Maybe Boros, you think? Like, oh, well, I want to keep this out of the hands of the red-white deck. But red-white's not going wide in this set, really. I don't know. This just seems like not. Giving everything Death Touch, like, on Internet, this does make really good attacks. And that's why it's in Tier 3 and not Tier 4. Because it is very strong. But I don't want to take this early, right? I don't want to get into white-black fizz. Again, it's a 5-mana signpost. I think it is probably better than the green-white one. Um, just because it affects your whole team and gives them Death Touch and makes you have good attacks. And it also works on attacks itself, although that one does too. Just not as well. It does lifelink. It's good and limited. I don't know. This doesn't excite me really in any way. On to the final multicolored card, and it's a short video. Usually these are quite long, the multicolor episodes, but this one's short. See what that means? Less multicolor stuff in the set. What does that mean? Tanuk Memorial Ensign. 1 green red for a 2/4 with landfall. When a land you control enters, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. If this is the second time this ability is resolved this turn, draw a card. So there are a number of ways to make landers. You've seen them. This one does not help you do that. I'm very skeptical of signposts that don't actually help you do the thing that they want to do. I know that we just had the blue-white one where it's like this doesn't help you do the thing that you want to do. I mean, it actually does because it's a cheap spell. But like this, like yes, you're gonna play 1 land a turn and ping your opponent for 1. It's not that good. It's okay, but it was okay in OTJ because like there was crime stuff happening and you could build your deck with that in mind. This like, it's just like how much do I really care about paying my opponent for 1 on my 3-drop? Not that much. And then yes, the lander tokens are really good with this, and if you get to play a land and then use the lander token in a turn, you're drawing a card and also paying your opponent for 2, which is really good. But there's only going to be a lot of games where you play this on turn 3 and it does nothing and it doesn't block very well or attack very well. It's not super relevant. It's just not that relevant in combat. Maybe your opponent has to kill it, but I think a lot of times they can just take the risk of saying, okay, well, I mean, if you're really built around this, right? Like, let's say you're really in deep, but you're going to want to crack your lander on turn 2. Like, you just are going to want to do that because then you're ramping and you're spending your mana. So, like, but maybe you have landers, and then on turn 4, you could say, I'm cracking my lander, and it just dies. No. I'm leaving it in tier 3. It dies to removal. I refuse to move it up. It is only 3 mana, but I refuse. And maybe I'll be wrong, and that's okay. And that's okay with me. And that's it. That's it for the multicolored section. It's a short one. It's a short one in this set. We'll see how that plays out. Feel free to stick around. There will be more set review content in the future. See ya.